This is Ed in San Diego, and you're on Global TV Talk Show, a business unit of Global Business News TV networks. Very special broadcast today is launching. We're going to be going for a few hours. It's all about building and redeveloping or developing for the first time international business relationships. Can't have a relationship. Can't do business unless you have a relationship. And with us are going to be several guests throughout the day. And our first guest is Philip Berry, who's going to start in about 11 minutes or less, and we'll finish at 10:30 East Coast time. And in between, we're going to learn the difference about professional branding versus personal branding and how they feed into each other and the state-of-the-art information. So, Philip, thank you very much. We'll start with you in just a couple of minutes. Also with us from Phoenix, Arizona, is Stephen Howard. Welcome again.
Thank you.
Author of 27 books, and the latest one has just come out, and I have it right here. And I'm sure you're going to show us a copy of this thing later. Can't really see it when I'm holding it up this way.
Yeah,
but
you can see it there. I can see it.
Yeah, great. And welcome. And Stephen and Ali Shami, who will be with us later today, have also written this book, this fantastic guidebook called Partnering Successfully with American Firms and How to Work Effectively with U.S. Companies and Business People. That is right on target, Stephen.
A great book.
Yeah. And Ken Lloyd, PhD, has a new book out too. This is Author City here today. And it's performance appraisals and phrases, part of the Dummies series. And this is just perfect for me as a dummy. I'm just a happy TV talk show host, but you guys are professionals for years. And I thank you for being on the program. And with us now from Mexico City is Rigoberto. Hello again, my friend.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, welcome. Rigo, meet Philip Berry and Stephen Howard and Ken Lloyd. Rigo, tell us a little bit, and will tell us and our audience out there now on TV about you and what are you working on now?
Certainly, thank you first of all for inviting me. It's a great pleasure. And currently, I'm working as a freelance destination service consultant specifically for Mexico City. And I have been in the global mobility industry for about 20 years, more or less, so far. So I'm happy to be here, Ed. Thank you.
Oh, this is great. Thank you. And let's see, we have more people coming in right now. Or my scratching nose. Heather from London and Alex from Berlin will join us in just a minute. This is being recorded, everybody, so be careful and be intentional. And we're getting underway right on time. This is such an exciting day for me. Heather, welcome. Hello, Heather from London.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Okay, so everybody, introductions. Heather, Philip Berry in the blue jacket, Rigoberto smiling, wearing dark frame glasses, Stephen Howard in the light blue shirt, and a well-dressed guy in white shirt and black tie and coat is Ken Lloyd. And Alex Lingham. Alex, hello, welcome. Turn on your voice. Okay, Alex is in Berlin, and when he gets his mic on, he will introduce himself. And Heather, thank you so much for being involved. I want to hear more about your excursion with your husband to the Falkland Islands. Yes. Hello, Alex. Can you hear me? Hello, Alex. Sound test.
Hi, everyone. Anyway, I'll just jump in.
I
haven't seen many of you for a while because I was really ill after one of Ed's last sessions, actually. And it turned out, I think I told you I'd been to the emergency room and I ended up with long COVID. So I was literally knocked out flat for 2 months. And then I had a big birthday and went off on holiday, and it did me the world of good. So I'm really pleased to be back in the saddle. So I did miss you all. I've got my Humoni mojo back. Thank you, Stephen. So I'm feeling humonious now. Thank you.
Great. Let's
Nice.
welcome Annette Louise Dernick from Bonn, Cologne, Germany. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Great to see you and great to meet you again.
Yes. Alex, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Thank-
very much for being there. Alex, why don't you self-intro? You are founder and president of Visum, which is an immigration law firm, right?
It's a visa. The company name is Visum Point. We have been formed about 15 years ago in Germany and doing service immigration and relocation services globally around the world. And yeah, I think we are doing quite well so far.
Oh, it's really good. Now, prior to this excursion into being an entrepreneur, you were a long-time executive with a very large organization. Would you like to tell the audience what that was?
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. So before I formed this company, I worked for Hewlett Packard as the CIO of HP Germany, and then I was hired by a company called Siemens. I assume that everybody knows Siemens,
Yep.
very global player. I managed a job globally in the IT outsourcing business, heading or managing about, at that time, it was about 3,000 employees. Then I was hired by another company called Sitel, an American-based company. Maybe you know Sitel, also in the outsourcing business. And here I managed Europe with about 7,000 people and a P&L responsibility of about 500 million euro. So this was my previous management assignments, more or less. And then I decided to go into a totally new area, which is called the visa service. I started in visa and legalization services, and then I expanded to immigration and relocation services. So there we are today. In Europe, we are also doing EU notifications, because if you are doing services within Europe, you have to declare that in a specific system, and this service is what we are managing for other companies.
Great.
So
I
far,
want you to meet Rigoberto Vasquez in Mexico City. He also has experience with the visas, right?
Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you, Rigoberto.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I want everybody to use this chat and introduce themselves, exchange contact information. Okay, with us now is Dr. Ken Oler. Hi, Ken. Welcome back.
Thanks, Ed. It's great to be back.
Yeah, okay, this is Ken Oler. He is going to follow Philip Berry and be with us as much as possible. You're ex-Aon, ex-Meta, ex something else, I can't remember, but currently you're a radical. Is that correct?
That's right. And I mean, I haven't worked for Twitter or X, and then you'd have to call me XX. That's right. I'm the head of people science and COO for a startup called Radical. We're focused on accelerating impact for people and teams through clarity, capability, and connection.
That's great. Now, you're going to talk following Philip, and Philip is going to start at the top of the hour, and then you'll follow immediately after he needs to depart on a family issue. And then what is your topic? Announce what your topic is. I know you're going to be talking about people predictions, and you're going to take us through some kind of an exercise. Would you please take a minute and tell us about it?
Yeah, so we're releasing, last year we released the Radical People Predictions for 2024, and we'll review those, and then we have a forthcoming piece on the people predictions for 2025, and so that's the main topic of what we'll discuss. And we have 5 predictions. Just a bit of a teaser. The concept of disruption flows throughout, and even the concepts of disruptive innovation flows throughout the 5 people prediction. So we'll talk about that. And really the exercise that I want to do is a quick Mentimeter before we get started. And you know, the thing about predictions is you reserve the right to be wrong. So I want to invite everybody else to say what they think 2025 will bring businesses in the form of people challenges, and ultimately, you know, want to be able to share a bit about what Radical's doing and our point of view on the challenges that companies are facing.
Thank you, Ken. Let's go to Heather. Heather, please do a minute or two about this wonderful session that you and Shamin are going to lead later.
Heather, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. It's good that Ken's on, because Ken's an organizational psychologist, so he's going to already know everything about the psychological contract and psychological safety. But what I would like to do really in my session is really link that back into ROI. I'm not going to talk about expatriate ROI today, although I've been looking at some fantastic research into how we can start measuring expatriate ROI, which is fantastic. But what I want to really go into detail with today is to tell you all about really why, for me, psychology is power. It's powerful in the same way that coaching is transformative. And that's the passion that I have for the subject, especially in business. So my goal really is to share with you all, you know, that little bit of magic that psychology can bring to the workplace, and of course ROI as well.
Great. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm really honored to have you involved. And our good friend Yvonne Kwak from World Bank is going to be joining us. She's living in Paris right now, so she'll be joining us later. So we're going to begin. Oh, pardon me. I just hit the wrong button. I'm very sorry. God, you think I know how to do this after 900 times. But Louise, tell us what you're working on in 1 minute, please. If you could just take a minute, and then we have to start with Philip.
Yes, so I want to bring more love and peace into the world, and especially to companies. Yes, I know it sounds like a big goal, and maybe it is. My experience in companies really is that they will thrive much more with an atmosphere of trust, of appreciation, and peacefulness. And so that's what my speeches and my coachings are about, because it's a win-win-win situation. The company wins because they raise their profits. The employees love to work in this company, and customers are attracted to this company as well. And yeah, it also, the benefit is also a much bigger, yes, kind of scale, because people are much more peaceful when they return home. And so it starts within me, being peaceful inside, then with the people I'm surrounded with. And the third field is to be peaceful with the environment.
Oh,
And
that's great.
started
Yes.
writing something in the chat so that you can all connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Ed.
No, thank you. Thank you. And your voice is welcome throughout the day. Everybody's voice is welcome throughout the day. We do have organized keynotes, but everybody is invited to use the chat, raise hand, interject an idea. Stephen, you're going to be active, I know, throughout the day. I thank you for your time. Stephen is going to do the closing keynote, and you're going to be talking about Humany, right?
Yes, and it ties in some of the things that Annette and Philip and Heather and Ken have been talking about people, about being a people-centric leader. So and peacefulness, I like that. We'll bring peacefulness into the workplace.
Alex, we're going to come back to you, especially in the mobility sessions. Germany is aggressively and I think beautifully
It depends.
unwrapping the opportunity card, which is a concerted effort to attract high-tech people to work in German companies and relocate, I guess, or can they work remotely, Alex?
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect, actually. So Germany is very aggressive in changing its law. So they have introduced a new law, a new immigration law, back in November last year, implementing that in 3 stages. And the last stage was implemented in June in this year by implementing the so-called opportunity card. We call it Chancenkarte is the German word for this one. And this gives the possibility to for people coming from the outside of the EU into Germany by trying out specific jobs. They can work up to 20 hours a week in any given company. They do not need to have a contract with a company, but they can come over by having a specific points available. So points means that they have to have the appropriate level of education. They need to have maybe the appropriate level of English skills or German skills. It's a credit system, so which has been introduced. You can use a credit calculator by entering some information into the calculator, and as soon as you hit 6 points or even more, then you have the possibility to apply for this opportunity card and to come into Germany with this opportunity card, staying in Germany for 1 year, up to 1 year, and then you can start to find a job in Germany. And if you like the job, then you can stay in Germany in a very easy way. This should be the beauty of it.
Thank you.
After half a year, unfortunately, what we have heard so far is only 300 opportunity cards have been accepted by the consulates, by the embassies globally, worldwide so far. So only
Thank you.
300. So that's not, it's so far not a success. It's a good try to move into the right direction, but so far it's not so successfully being implemented.
Okay, Dr. Ken Lloyd is the author of this book. It's just coming out next week. It's called Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies. And Ken, I want you to meet Ken Oler, and you guys should connect as much as possible because you're both friends of mine and PhDs, and I'm really appreciative of you guys being on the program. So on page 87 here of your book, I'm looking at holding the meeting. And I'm holding a meeting here, and we have to begin with Philip Berry because he's on a tight close. Philip, take over.
Yes, thank you very much, Ed. I really appreciate it. And what I need to do is to share.
Yeah, sure. My screen share is open.
Yeah, okay.
And this is about branding, a professional brand and the personal brand. What are they? How do they differ? How can you use them?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so a number of people get it mixed up when you talk about branding, and they think about the advertising, they think about media, but there is a professional branding that goes on throughout individuals' careers, and I want to talk about that. It really regards how you market a product or service that relates to your marketing position. In a certain way. And so what happens is that individuals will begin to take on a certain identification, with the company or with the profession that they're working in. And that is how they brand themselves. Matter of fact, sometimes throughout their career. For example, I'll use an example. My first job out of graduate school, where I also picked up my second master's degree, I was working for Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. And we used to call it Procter and God. And the reason we called it that is because the reach of Procter throughout the city and also throughout a number of our areas was very great. In fact, I could go to a store and I can buy something. And then if I didn't have a credit card, or I didn't have any money with me, I would just say, well, I work for Procter & Gamble. And they say, oh, that's okay. Just show me your business card and that's fine. And you can come back whenever you want to. I mean, so that took on an identification, and that was who I was. And Procter & Gamble was the one that pioneered the whole notion of soap operas, and the fact that we see a lot of advertising that is associated with a number of programs started, in the 1930s with Procter & Gamble taking on that emphasis. And so what happens is that people begin to take on a feeling about what their brand is and who they are based upon that. But what happens is that individuals wound up saying, well, okay, well, who are you anyway? And so people don't have the personal type of branding that they need because they are not looking at themselves and distinguishing themselves from the company that they're working in, even though the company that they're working in is a very good company. What needs to happen is that individuals find that they are moving from maybe one company to another, even from one profession to another. And they need to establish a platform of personal branding that helps them to improve their impact. And the impact fundamentally is that individuals, they might be working for any type of a firm that they're working for, and then they say, okay, I want to do something differently. Well, they need to, all of us want to make a difference in how we are working with the people and with teams and all, but what we need to do is to identify what are the primary factors that enable us to do that. And that's where we find people get to a point, matter of fact, in a lot of the coaching that I'm doing, I've seen it get to a point where individuals were saying, well, I don't know, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, but I work for this company, and they feel that that is their brand that is going to keep them going. What needs to happen is that they need to develop a much stronger personal emphasis, and that's where personal branding comes in. And so what we want to do is to instill something that's a lot more personal with our passion, our purpose, and meaning that we have in our interactions. Because just saying that you work for a certain company is not going to do it all. And even though the company that you work for, and I've worked for a number of great companies, but what has to happen, matter of fact, many people on this call will recognize me not from the work that I did with Procter, but also from my work at Colgate-Palmolive or the work when I was the CHRO for the Clinton Foundation. And what I found is that in all of those settings, I had to set up a specific personal brand that identified me and distinguished me from other individuals who might be in the same position. And so what happens is that I'm working with people, and what made them successful before, they feel that's not going to keep them going forever. They need to have another way of positioning themselves. And especially people who are working for a company and then they go into a certain country, they develop a lot of knowledge about what they're doing, but they need to be able to have more identity. And that's where personal branding comes in. And that's how we begin to think about changing the trajectory that individuals are on. So that way they move away from that professional branding, which might be related to a certain profession. It might be related to a certain company, but now they have something that is much more personal and that can help to distinguish them and to develop a distinctive competence that they have. So that way, when they're looking at their future state, they have something that's going to keep them going. That's what we mean. That's what we talk about when we talk about being better than you believe or rebranding themselves. Everybody has a brand, but they don't necessarily understand what that brand is. Let's talk about branding just for a second. It's not slick advertising. Sometimes when you bring up the topic of branding, then people say, well, let me put together an ad. Let me put together a commercial. Let me write something. Let me get a logo that I'm going to have. And they think that that's the branding, but that's not the essence. The real branding from a personal standpoint is the strategic essence of your DNA. And what we need to do is to have a proposition that gives you more identity, more purpose and direction, clarifying who you are not, defining what you can do and what you can't do. And this is the challenge that people have, especially mid-career individuals who are looking at what is going to be the next step that I take. They have difficulty defining that. I cannot tell you how many people I coach, and a number of you who have coached people also, and then they can't develop a resume that clearly identifies and distinguishes the work that they're doing, that they've done before, from the work that they can do if they're going to be working with you or working with you on a particular project. That's why we need to have that personal branding. And everybody has a brand. Some people say, well, I don't have a brand. Well, yes, you do. The fact is that what if people, if you think about 3 words, matter of fact, write something on a stickum and put 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, and then let another person give you 3 words that they would use to describe you. What would those words be? And how are they similar? How are they different? I love when people say, well, I'm a great communicator. Well, communication at the essential point can be more than just you talking. What about being a good listener? I've been coaching people, and as they move into senior roles, they need to understand how to listen more to their employees. And in fact, when we are going to do the session later, where we talk about what the future is going to be for individuals and companies, we need to have more people who understand as they move up the ladder how to listen to others. We don't have enough of that going on. That is communication. That is where you really begin to establish an identity that connects you better to people who are in the workforce and who are working for you. So when we look at a brand, it consists of 2 particular pieces. It's the attributes that people will formulate, and they say, okay, this is who you are, and this is what we think of you. But then what we need to do is to have something that is equally self-determining in terms of your goals and your competencies and your vision. That's the whole story. Too often, individuals, matter of fact, one of the people on the session is going to talk about performance appraisals. And performance appraisals really wind up consisting of what others think of you, what people think of you as, but they don't necessarily clarify what you think of yourself. And what is it that you bring that's different to the situation, and getting more clarity on that as you begin to identify where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. So I look at this brand as your portfolio of distinctive competencies, your values, and also your vision, which determines where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. In fact, if some of you are saying, well, I think I'm okay with these areas, I'm satisfied. And so if you're satisfied, you don't have to do anything. Stay with your present situation. But if not, then what you want to do is to have something that defines those, that identifies a different future state, and also identifies what your why is. So that way you understand what you're going to do. It clarifies what your purpose is more distinctly. So what you have in place is something that identifies what you will or will not do, and it defines more the purpose and direction that you're going to be moving in. I love the Ikigai model because people, when I started out in my career at IBM, and so I was thinking after school that, well, this is what I get paid for, and this is my vocation. This is what I'm working in. And then I began to develop more into that by developing my own professional brand, by looking at what am I looking at? What am I good at? And what needs to happen is that people need to move from that and then talk about, especially as you're beginning to identify your own identity and your own future state from a standpoint of the business that you want to have in, what is it that the world really needs? And that's where you begin to get into your mission and your vision. And if you think about it from a standpoint of doing what you love, that's where you really can combine it and put your passion in place. So that way you have a lot more satisfaction in what you're doing. People aren't satisfied enough in what they're doing because they're too busy thinking about what they get paid for and what they might be good at, but not thinking about what the world needs and also what they love. Love yourself. And we talked about how you create more love in the organization. How can we establish something that people in the organization can feel good about themselves and passionate about what they have. That's where personal branding comes in. So it comes down to identifying more what your purpose is and a statement regarding that. Some people, they go to school and they say, well, I'm going to go and get a law degree. Well, I'd like to say what you need to do is to have another statement in there that says, well, so that, ask them to say, not only I want to finish my law degree. Why do you want to do that? Well, maybe so I can create a new just society. Or if I went for my MBA, so that I could be a good marketing person. Well, what does that really mean? What you want to do is that you still want to say, so that what? That's where you begin to get into the why statements regarding what you're doing. I love being in a situation where matter of fact, let's say that I'm a producer of a movie. And so in this movie, what I do is I say, well, I want to have a very strong action figure, an actor who is very strong, who is very active. So you would say to yourself, I can pick either Denzel or, I mean, doesn't matter which of these two great individuals I pick, I'm going to be really good and satisfied with that. But then let's say that I wanted to also have an individual who is more empathetic, and so that way I'm not just looking at the action point of it. I'm looking at maybe another quality, another characteristic, another competence that distinguishes one person from another. And in that second situation, I've done this example with other people. They wind up saying, well, I really would like to have Denzel because Denzel is able to show a lot more passion and empathy with the type of things that he's involved in as opposed to Tom Cruise. I think that rebranding ultimately gives you a tremendous opportunity to highlight the new you. People aren't thinking enough about who they are. They are continuing to identify themselves based on their profession or based on the company that they were working for. And no matter how proud you are of the company that you're working for, it may not hold forever. And now that I'm working for my own company, and after having worked for a number of other companies, I can say that when you move to a different situation, you want to think about what is the new you. So for example, when I moved from Procter & Gamble and from digital equipment to Colgate, I began to develop a new me, which was more globally based, where my distinctive competencies as a person who understood how to work from one country to another. I worked and managed people in over 60 countries around the world, and I can name them, I always like to say, because I can develop a new me, a new you can develop a new you in that same way. You develop a brand when you want to expand your market or your consumer base. That's another thing. And a number of people, as they're thinking about, they go abroad and then they don't necessarily say, well, how did that experience that I went through, how did that really help to formulate me and develop me in a way that increased my capability, increased my contribution, and also increased the overall direction that I could give to anybody that I was working with. So when you want to expand your customer base or your consumer base, you want to do that. We brand when we want to take advantage of new and emerging trends. Well, one of the things that people think about with AI, they say, oh gosh, this is going to be the death of me. Well, it's not going to be the death of you. Matter of fact, when I think about the days that I had when I was working at IBM, I really developed a very strong capability in the area of computers and understanding data processing. That has changed a lot and morphed into different ways throughout the years, so that now I can hold in my hand an iPhone that holds all of the information from the standpoint of storage and communication and capabilities that I had when I was working on the System 3, which was the computer system that I was working on when I was at IBM. One wants to figure, how can we use AI and let that complement the competencies and capabilities that we have? And it may be, and a matter of fact, it will define that you have a new job. It doesn't have to be the old job. The job that you had before is not going to be in place anymore. Change is always in the air. Whether you believe it or not, change is in the air. And so what you need to do is to change along with that, and rebranding helps you to be seen and identified in a very different way than you were seen before. And so when we want to be perceived differently than we were before, as opposed to the old person that we were when you're going to a new job, or you're going to a new company, or when you start up a new company, what you want to do is to rebrand so that way people can understand what that is. So the solid components, therefore, of a rebrand is a new vision. It's identifying distinctive competencies and also new values that will sustain new behaviors. You don't want to stay with the old values. You want to be able to have a behavioral matrix that helps you to be much more powerful, more impactful in the arenas that you're going to work in. People continually make, there's a phrase about, well, I want to make new wine, but I'm using old bottles. You can't do that. What you have to do is to think about a new way that you are going to house yourself, position yourself, and that is based upon the vision, the competencies, and new behaviors. It doesn't just come from writing a nice new flashy type of a resume. That's not going to do it. Yeah, think about the people that I have here in terms of people who have rebranded. Taylor Swift, she started out in Tennessee, and was doing more country type music. What is she doing now? Now she's a billionaire who actually has done a lot to change the supply chain of the whole AMC movie industry based on the work that she's doing. She is a phenom based on what she's doing. I could pick any other names on here. Bono, I don't have any of his music, but I respect him because of what he does in the area of philanthropy, and also how he gives back and how he supports communities. So Queen Latifah, a rap singer, who now is on a best-selling show on TV. Angelina Jolie, has moved from where she was. LL Cool J, who used to start out as a rapper, but now he is on NCIS, and it's a program that's been running successfully on NCIS for the last 10 years. People don't even think about, matter of fact, they say, did he sing before? Jay-Z, a multi-billionaire, from a standpoint, moving from being a drug dealer, let's face it, yeah, that was his old brand, but he has moved to a new brand in terms of helping to redevelop a number of communities and businesses that he's working in. That's what new branding does. So do others see you, therefore, the way you see yourself? And what can you do to change that particular view? How can you rewrite the script? Because there is a script that your life has. And so when you think about significant life events, a number of people have found that when the pandemic was taking place, what they had to do, they had to change their philosophy and also change their businesses that they were operating in. My son, he had about 3 different businesses. He was trying to be with supermarket, not supermarkets, but dry cleaners. So he had 3 dry cleaners that he bought in Manhattan. Well, during the pandemic, how many people went to clean their clothes? Well, they didn't do that. Now he is working in a whole different area. He moved from New York down to Miami, and he's an investor, and he is in the area of climate and sustainability. And him and his wife, who also lost her business at that time, both of them are driving new Teslas, which I guess speaks to the fact that they are going to pay for the kids, grandkids. They have enough money to pay for the grandkids in school. But that's what you want to do. You want to think about what makes you, as I begin to come to more of the closing parts of what I want to say, what makes you unique? What makes you distinctive from others? When you're going for a job somewhere, I have a person who is a lawyer that I'm working with right now, great business that he has. And he said, I'm very successful in the area, but I want to do something different in another profession or in another area. So what happened is that we began to look at areas where, through my coaching, where he actually moved abroad for a while, for a period of time, developed a situation where he has very strong businesses doing visual type of business company work in the Philippines. He has about 30 people working for him while at the same time maintaining the business that he has in Connecticut. And he's grown by quite a few million dollars in his business. So that makes him unique and that makes him distinctive. Other people that I'm thinking about that are really, it's really important when you think about your distinctive competencies because they have a number of competencies. I talk to people who are doctors or lawyers. They're moving to a point where they're engineers and now they're supervising other people. They moved abroad or they moved up based upon their technical skills, but their interpersonal skills, their leadership skills, wanting quite a bit. And that's where you want to get a new place, a new competency in place where you can look at what are the top 3 competencies that you have now. And then as you think about what you want to develop over the next 3 years, I say a 3-year horizon, let's start there. And then you begin to think about, well, maybe there's something else that I have that I can use to promote what I'm doing and to guide a different framework. Lots of behaviors in place. I love to do behavioral assessments to help individuals look at their behaviors that they bring. And I have all type of certification. A number of you are certified in these things. The important thing is, are there areas here that you want to develop that are different than might have been in place before? And I can look at these in a number of different ways. In fact, in my book, I look at about 50 different values and the behaviors that come from that that will help an individual promote themselves in a different way. So ultimately, what do we do? What do we come down to? We come down to, in the last few minutes that I have, is how do we create new opportunities for success? We do this by communicating and connecting in a very different way. We do this by networking. That's one of the reasons why these sessions are very good. You network to develop and maintain quality and beneficial connections and making that a way of life. And above all, I always say everybody should have your own personal board of directors. I always like to say, why should executives, CEOs have all of the fun? Everybody ought to have individuals that they can go to, that they can speak to, that can help them to understand where they are, what they're doing, what they need to do differently, and give them the feedback and the coaching that they need outside of the coaching and perspectives that they'll get from other people. We all are able to do this, and I find that all of us are nothing but 6 degrees of separation from anybody else in the world that can help us to do this. People say, well, how am I going to pull together your board of directors? It's pretty easy to do. Let me close on this. This is one more thing I'd like to say before I close, and that is that there really are only 3 types of people in the world. And those people are individuals who watch things happen, to make things happen, and to wonder what happened. What type of person are you going to be as a result of some of the things that we did here? I've given you some tools to help you to reimagine this, and I wish you bon voyage in this new journey. Thank you very much, and I think I was able, while I was at speed level there, to keep it within the time frame that was important for you and for others. But and this is my book here. Naturally, I'm online here with LinkedIn. Go to my website, go to a number of other places so you can connect with me. And that is what I have to say. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed being able to be involved in the session and the opportunity.
Thank you. I love how you put it in a box. It's like everything's in that box. Wow. Well, thank you for showing us all that. I think it was Hollywood at its best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I want you to take it down so we could all see each other. And and let's welcome Chris Exline from Ukraine. Welcome, Chris.
Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon to everybody. It's great to be here. Sorry, I'm a bit late. We had a power outage at the office, so I had to race through the snow and get back to the to my house. to be able to get power and join you. So thank
Where
you.
are you? Where was your house?
I'm at home. I'm at home, Phil. You
No, I
sound like
mean,
my
what
family.
city are
Where
you
are
in?
you?
People are here from all over the globe. We're all at home too.
Greetings from Kremenets, Ukraine. I'm in
Okay.
Western Ukraine.
Okay,
Kremenets is in the near Lviv, and we're so yes, I'm coming to you live from Ukraine.
good. Thank you very much. That's what I like
Okay.
about good sessions. People can be from Greece, everywhere, wherever they want to be. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, I want you to meet Heather, who's from London, and she's going to be in a keynote session midday, and with Shamin, who's from New York. So Heather is a business psychologist and an award-winning researcher. Recently did a white paper that's winning all kinds of accolades and awards, not because of how she looks, which is wonderful. It's the brains behind the research. Heather, why don't you do 30 seconds here about what the gist of that permits research report was?
Hi, and thank you, first of all, Philip. That was really, really good. And Chris, we've met before. I've been on a number of sessions where you've been on, so I do recognize you, and I love the work you do. What I was hearing from you, Philip, as you were talking, is very much about it's a reflection of the work that I do. And I think how your previous sessions have really helped me has been for me to reflect back more of the passion that you're talking about rather than just the competencies or what it is that I do. So I wanted to thank you, but I hear so much psychology in what you do. I think in your own way, you're a brand psychologist. I really do, because it overlaps so much. Ken, I'm sure you'd agree, it overlaps so much with psychology of behavior. And I'm really looking forward to speaking after Chris, actually. I think Chris is on just before me, but the work I've done this year has been a little bit different to the work that I do generally in helping rebrand people, for instance, who move. So everything you talked about was really similar to what we do for families who are moving, say, from America to Asia. And all of a sudden, the professional kudos that they had in their home country just isn't there anymore. And essentially what they do need is a rebrand. They need to get themselves market ready and rebrand. And this is a huge psychological process and emotional process, as well as finding your values for a market that might be completely different. And of course, beliefs go along with values. So it's all well and good having values, but where are your beliefs and the assumptions that you're making about who you are and what you can do? I love the image of the cat looking in and seeing a lion. Very often we have lions that are actually not seeing the cat. They actually think they're lions. And so again, we have to do some impression management techniques there as well. But so yes, I'm looking forward to doing my session, but I didn't want to take away from Philip's, because everyone here on today, you all have a unique field of expertise that is just really unrivaled as far as I'm concerned. And Philip, without you even knowing, you've helped me so much with the insights that I've gathered from you. So I just wanted to thank you and say that, yeah, there is a lot of psychology and magic in what you do. So I wanted to thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip, for that. I know you have to run.
Yeah, I have about 15 minutes. I'll stay on and then I'll leave.
Okay, good. All right, let's go to Ken Oler, Dr. Ken Oler. Thank you very much for joining us today early and participating, and I certainly welcome you to stay beyond into the next sessions because your voice is really important. Ken Oler has spoken at several of my events, including at the Ernst & Young event and also in Manhattan. And here he is again. So thank you. Let's go to Ken. Ken, the stage is yours.
Great, thanks for having me. I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you.
Now, do people see the Mentimeter?
No, we're looking at the gallery.
Oh, interesting. That's not the one I wanted.
Okay, now I see the leopard. No,
Nice
yeah, let me
leopard.
try this
Nice.
again.
no, I think you got to press the correct button. I'm sorry, I'm not tech, so I can't help you.
It happens. How about now?
On.
Okay, yeah, there we are, the
There we go.
mentee.
So I want to start with getting everybody involved. So you can either go to, you're probably using your phone is the easiest one. You can use the QR code, or you could just open up a browser and go to menti.com, and you can enter this code 59794213. And I just want to ask you a few questions that will tee up the conversation.
Okay, I'm going to menti.com, and then I need to put in a code, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you show us the code again, please?
It's so it's at the top here, 5979
Ah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
4213.
And where do I input that?
So you should see a text box down below once you put the code in. It should be asking you for a code.
Oh yeah, okay, I got that. Okay, great. 5979 5979, and then what?
All right, somebody just said hello.
4213 4213. Okay.
So the first question, and this will sort of tee up, and we'll see the degree of alignment between the people predictions, and I'm just curious to know what you all think the biggest people related challenges businesses will face in 2025. There's no wrong answers, and I don't think I can tag the responses back to who said what. So,
Can I speak?
yes.
So talent retention, talent acquisition, multi-generational workforce, skills gaps, STEM, skills shortages, as we move forward at the rapid pace with technology, mental health, stress in the workplace, finding really positive ways to work transformatively with AI, so that we work as collaboratively as possible, as Philip was mentioning. Psychological illnesses arising, mental health, stress already talked about. External factors such as VUCA related environmental issues, uncertainty going on externally where businesses have to be more agile. I mean, I could just lead the session for you. I just feel quite passionately about what we're heading towards.
Yeah. Well, you can co-present. That was a great that was a great tee up.
How about safety?
Say more.
Well, safety meaning like, I'm almost glad I didn't travel into Manhattan. I didn't
Yes.
know who would
Yeah.
come after me.
Right. There's a level of agitation, right? And it, with this terrible event with the CEO that was murdered, there is a level of vitriol and anger in the world for sure. So let me move on to the next question. What are the greatest barriers or areas of friction to your work impact? So think personally, like when you're trying to get stuff done, what are your biggest frustrations?
Interruptions, taking my energy or changing, wanting to change what I'm doing, or needing to listen to them, be courteous, or not bark and say, leave me alone, try to think. How to handle all the interruptions around.
Getting it all done, removing excuses,
Yeah.
multitasking. Okay. Procrastination, decision making. Oh, I love this one. We'll talk about this one. This is great. Okay, so Thanks for the input. I'm going to flip over to the presentation now, and we'll talk about the people predictions for 2025. While the slideshow loads. Oh dear. Let's try that again. There we go. So real quickly again, so I act as the COO and head of people science for Radical. And Radical is an application that's driven by AI that's focused on unlocking work impact by accelerating clarity, capability, and connection for people. A lot of things that Philip talked about actually are baked into the product and the way we approach helping people be more impactful at work. Real quickly, I just wanted to go over the people predictions for 2024. This was what we released a year ago, and maybe we'll just do a quick report card on this. The first one was economic pressure keeps cost and productivity in the crosshairs. I think that was largely true. I think companies were not investing in people. There was very much a wait and see element. We continued to see layoffs and hiring was slow. Politics impacting leadership trust and well-being. Certainly in the US, it was a very vitriolic period of time. And for the most part, my personal experience and what I saw anecdotally, I'd be interested in others' thoughts, was I think leaders, for the most part, stepped up in a better way than perhaps they did in previous years, where I saw a lot more vitriol inside of companies and sort of political ideologies coming to the forefront, less of that, or a more muting of that. Although there was certainly some high profile cases where politics were creeping into the workplace and ultimately impacting trust and interactions based on ideological views. Third one was AI acceleration shapes everything. I don't think there was a conversation or a news cycle that went by in any week that didn't talk about AI. If you happen to be holding NVIDIA as a stock last year, you probably were pretty happy, and all of the companies that were behind AI. Now, the thing about AI is we're in the power curve. We're in the early stages, and I think the acceleration will continue to compound. 4 was attention shifting to solving for distributed team effectiveness. So there was so much debate about, is remote work going to work, or do we need to just force everybody back in the office? And yes, there were some high profile cases like Amazon forcing everybody back 5 days a week. But for the most part, if you follow Nick Bloom's research, who's really at the forefront of remote work, what he's showing is month in, month out, we've stabilized at about 2 days a week remote work for most people. And these companies that are forcing people back 5 days a week are still the outliers. And then the last one, Heather, as you were talking about talent dynamics, forcing attention on individual needs. There's so much going on with people, and people not feeling well, not feeling like they have the skills that they need, interacting with new technologies, and then the Gen Y and Gen Z workforce really becoming the majority of the working population and changing the dynamics. So this is what we talked about last year. I want to move us into the people predictions for 2025. Back to the AI theme, this image was AI generated. I had ChatGPT create this for me, saying, here are the people predictions I want to talk about. Make it cool, I think is what the prompt was. And this is what it came up with. And it was I felt it was pretty interesting. And it shows you how quickly you can generate pretty good work product at this point. So let's get into the first one. And as I mentioned, there will be a theme of disruption. And if you think about the concepts of disruptive innovation, Christensen, if you know his work, is really sort of the father of disruptive innovation, and has written a lot of pieces on that, a lot of things in Harvard Business Review. There's a concept of leaders that stay on top disrupt their own structure and operating model. You can think about the disruptors to industries that start at the bottom and work their way up. And the only ones that have been on top, that stay on top, have the courage to disrupt their own structure and operating model. Now, there's this concept of disruption. So you could think of it as negative disruption or positive disruption. I think the jury is out right now. But if you think about what's going on across the world, the entire Trump campaign was very much disruptive. He has one of the most disruptive thinkers now in his cabinet, actually two of them if you count Vivek, that are now going to disrupt the government and disrupt the way work is going on. Healthcare, education, and intelligence are in the crosshairs with the Doge group, with Vivek and Elon. There's a focus at least in the U.S. and de-escalating international conflicts, and Trump's policies will largely be pro-U.S. business through tax and regulations. Now, the data over to the right, this is from the chief executive organization polling what CEOs think the government policies are most likely going to impact in 2025. And again, taxes and regulation, lower taxes and deregulation being at the forefront. So what this means for people and opportunities, first, there's some scary things. If you're in the government, in the US government, just using the rule of thumb that downsizing may impact 35% of a workforce, that means 850,000 government workers are at risk. So that's going to be quite disruptive to the way the government operates, the US government operates. Immigration and I-9 documentation is likely going to be a significant focus in the US. Now, perhaps on the more positive side, as taxes come down, as regulation and growth starts to spur, wages may make up ground relative to the price inflation that we've seen. And then labor competitiveness will favor US workers and growth industries, at least in the US. Now, globally, it's going to be very interesting how immigration and global mobility shakes out with this. Again, this is very US focused, but if you think about what's going on in France and Germany, what just happened in Syria, across the globe, there is a theme, a populist theme of this isn't working anymore and we're done, and voting people out or throwing people out in the case of Syria. And as well as Canada is another really good example of what's going on there. So moving forward now, there is some CEO confidence. And again, this is a poll from Chief Executive. And after the November election, there was a really significant spike here in the likelihood of capital expenditure increases and hiring increases for the next 12 months. And you'll see, and there's a Gartner study that says there's a shift to growth as the top priority in 2025. And it's, largely looking back, it was much more cost and productivity focused. 90% of organizations are planning to invest in AI-based innovation. That's not really much of a surprise, but it has really significant implications for which industries will be affected, therefore which jobs and disruptive change will show up. So cybersecurity, anything in the AI, machine learning, virtual reality technology space, energy, healthcare, and educational technology are industries predicted to grow from PNC. And lots of different financial organizations are saying these are the industries to watch. There are a lot of tailwinds behind these industries, which means if you're currently working there, you're going to see a lot of change and uncomfortable disruption and lots of AI coming in. If you're not, you might want to think about what are the skills and things coming in these spaces that might make you more marketable. So number three, now that AI is certainly one. Now, one of the things that seems to be happening is not just a massive increase in the use of large language models like ChatGPT, but there are also innovations coming on quickly. So when ChatGPT came out, first it was okay, and people were talking a lot about hallucinations in the responses that you were getting, like, why is it saying that? It's not, it's just sort of making this stuff up. With the release of ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 4 can now pass the bar exam. It understands over 26 languages. If you've interacted with GPT-4, you'll notice the massive increase in the quality of output. The image at the beginning of this deck was created in GPT-4. The large majority of CHROs are using workplace AI. Growth in GPT as a required skill, and being able to work with AI is massively increasing. And now the big thing for 2025 is this concept of agentic AI. So if you know what that means, that's sort of a fancy word for AI is going to have more decision agency. So rather than having a query and it gives you a response back, there will be AI agents embedded in technology that will start making decisions for you, start pushing things toward you as basically a very high qualified assistant. That will start coming very quickly. You'll see the last stat on the right, enterprise software by 2028. There will be 33% of enterprise software will be using agentic AI by 2028, up from 0 last year. So that wasn't even happening at all last year, and this is going to be a massive increase. Now that creates some scariness of like, well, how are you making that decision? What decisions are you making? Do I trust that you're making the right decision? What if you make a very scary decision for me or for mankind? But that is coming, and it's coming very, very fast. What this means now for the people are, if rote clerical tasks, they're going to be gone. There'll be very few people doing that anymore. People will say, is it going to disrupt jobs? And people want to give a categorical answer. And the large answer is no, it's going to make work better. There are certain jobs that will go away. The majority of jobs will not, but it will change work. And people will start to think of agentic AI as another team member that can accelerate queries, idea generation, synthesizing data. It's not always going to be right, but it's very fast, and it will start learning and getting better. And there's this big concept of, this is ultimately going to be an accelerant to new skills and accelerating work impact. So let's talk about skills. Heather, you mentioned skills. There is a ton going on. If you haven't read the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report from 2023, it's a really, really fascinating read. There's a lot of stuff in it to check out. There's a few statistics in here that are of interest. So about 4 out of 10 will have skill transformation in their work, with analytical and creativity and creative thinking being in high demand. Now, there's a big thing in the HR space with skills framework, skills ontologies, and the future of work is skills, not jobs. If you follow some of the futurists, the people talking about the future of work, the reality is this is largely a technology implementation at this point, and only 20% of companies have adopted these skills ontologies. However, it's coming. And this concept of, and Philip was talking about this, what skills are you bringing? What is the brand of skills that you have to market yourself is coming very fast. And so the people implications are broad. So skills assessments are going to be critical. What skills do you have? How good are you at these skills? What skills do you need? And this is going to be changing very, very fast. If you look at the top 10 skills priorities for 2027, what's interesting is there's a combination of technical, cognitive, and what they call them self-efficacy skills, but I would call them personality. So if you look at these things in blue, resilience, flexibility, and agility, curiosity and lifelong learning. For those of you that know the Big Five model, that's openness, motivation and self-awareness. This is EQ and drive and conscientiousness. These are very much psychological personality factors. So the merging of technical skills, cognitive abilities, and personality as who you are and what you bring to the table is going to be absolutely critical. And again, in the backdrop of what's going on with AI, the ability to have analytical thinking alongside of AI and then do some of the creative thinking that AI is not necessarily as good at yet, it will also be very critical. Ultimately, this disruption in skills is going to favor people who are adaptable. So if you are high on the openness factor of personality, you're going to do better than someone who is not. And if you're not high on it, it doesn't mean you can never get there, but it means that you're going to have to attend to that and learning how to work with AI, learning how to learn so that you can unlock impact in this rapid change that's going on. Now, the last prediction I'll talk about is work impact. So there was so much attention to productivity last year, and a lot of that came in the form of layoffs and just get back in the office and etc. Radical has done a ton of work on this concept of work impact, and we looked at elements of work impact that came from a lot of anecdotal interviews and focus groups and qualitative research, and then started to measure it. And we looked at 4 big elements of how productive do you feel? Are you making meaningful work progress? What's the level of team decision speed and quality, and the level of cross-functional teams actually able to push work forward? The number of people that are scoring really high on all 4 of those elements, which I would argue is critical to work impact, is 9%. We've got a big problem. And I think organizations know it. They feel it intuitively. That's why I think a lot of CEOs are sort of knee-jerk saying, well, just get back in the office 5 days a week, because they have a hypothesis that people are losing clarity, they're losing the ability to learn from others, and they're losing the connection with others. I think it's the wrong strategy, but it's the right things that they're worried about. And so when we did our research, we found that these 3 elements of clarity, capability, and connection kept coming up over and over again. And there's some big problems that about 4 out of 10 people don't think leaders are making the right long-term decisions for where we're going in clarity, that prioritization isn't happening based on important outcomes like customer needs, or they don't know how prioritization is happening at all, or there isn't enough. And that's, people talked about their biggest challenges were overwhelmed. How do I get all it done? That's a factor of not having enough prioritization, being able to say what you're not going to do.
Ken, if I can just interrupt,
Yeah.
What comes to mind is Elon Musk's the space division, where recently that space rocket came back from a mission, and by remote control or pre-programming, it came back down and didn't crash into the ocean or on rocks, but it just guided itself back into the launching pad. It was amazing to watch that. Now, AI probably designed all of that to happen, right? Or was that some whiz kid like you?
I don't know the answer to that, but I would venture that the answer was both. I don't believe AI could figure that out on its own. Like, you couldn't put a prompt in GPT and say, how would you land a rocket back into its into the tower without crashing? I think you have to have an extreme knowledge of physics that could be programmed into AI to do that more quickly and give you some models. But I'm positive that and I think this gets into capability. Like, how do you do that? How do you do that quickly? How do you do that with the accuracy required?
Ken Lloyd, would you like to jump in and ask Ken a question?
Sure. I think you have to be very careful if you have 2 Dr. Kens in the same program, just as a warning going forward. Yeah. What can I say, Ken? I think this is a brilliant way to look at where things are going. Certainly this agentic AI is going to be absolutely tremendous. You see it in use already, companies applying it, dealings with customers and product. And I guess my only concern is not necessarily on AI, but just overall where things are going, the difference between disruption and destruction. And speaking with physicians, for example, about where healthcare may be going, there's some real concern, fear, anxiety about what might happen if some of the proposals that are being talked about in terms of fluoride and vaccines and all the way down the line are actually implemented. And this is coming from physicians really from all political, if you will, values backgrounds. So yeah, disruption, we need it. I think it's a key part of rebranding. If we disrupt ourselves, that's how we can continue to grow and learn. Destruction is different. And I know in the workplace that's going on. I see it in the divisiveness between employees who work together in the past, but their, if you will, political orientation, which is a reflection of their values and beliefs, are dividing them, and it's impacting how they work on, if you will, non-political projects, but just in terms of the trust and communication that they have within each other. That's a concern that obviously we'll need to address and be aware of as the year continues, and as we really see what kinds of changes are being made right now. A lot of verbalization. We'll see what the reality looks like as we get into.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ken Oler, thank you so much. I want you to sum up. We have about 5 minutes remaining, and then we're going to take a break because this link is going to close, and we need to go to the second Zoom link to enter. So this one's going to close out in a few minutes, and then we're going to take a short break, and everybody should go find that Zoom link number 2. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to give the time to Heather. I see you raise your hand.
Thank you. I have a quick question, Ken, before you go and before you sum up. So first of all, I would love to hear your advice or your opinion, if you will, on bias. Simply because, can we go back to that picture that you showed right at the beginning?
Yeah.
Which you asked AI to generate?
This one.
Okay, so do you know what the first thing was that popped out to me? That there is a huge bias in this AI generated image of technology, and there's hardly any focus on people. So I know you asked for it to be cool, but for the focus of Industry 5.0 or IR5, I think we, you know, how do we manage? And I'm not at all averse to any of the progression with AI. I suppose my own concern is just about the human factor and how we manage inherent bias that may be in that system. So that was just my question, really, before you wrap up.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, well, the reality is, regardless of AI, there is bias. Humans have bias, right? And they always have and always will. And I mean, the interesting thing about what you mentioned about the technology focus with this is I actually plugged in the 5 predictions and said, you know, make it about that. I didn't just say, you know, create a cool image. So it drew upon the fact that I think that there's a lot of themes around AI and technology in the prediction. So I think it's reflecting that, and perhaps maybe that's not bias, but it's presenting, if we agree that those 5 predictions are somewhat on target, maybe what it's highlighting is, hey, we better not lose sight of the humans. And so maybe that's not actually bias, but it's highlighting an insight that we can't ignore. But it's a really good insight. I mean, I think, you know, back to the question about bias, though, is that, you know, just like before the days of AI, people were challenged to think about what are the biases that you're bringing into interactions, into decision making, et cetera. And to the extent that those are still showing up in the queries of AI, that can get very challenging because the speed with which decisions are coming back will outpace humans' ability to react. That's perhaps one of the biggest risks we have, I think, with AI is What are these decisions? Are there some scary biases baked into those decisions? And is it now moving too fast and it's now agentic and it has some governance to make decisions without us? That's the stuff that I think, of sci-fi movies. But we may be faced with some real case scenarios very soon.
Ken, I thank you. This is
Thank you.
fascinating. Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay. Anybody else have a quick question for Ken Older? Well, I welcome you to hang out with us. So this is going to end now. I need to close this out, and then let's take a short break and come back in on Zoom link number 2. Okay, and we'll be on that for 120 minutes or so, and then we'll have to go to Zoom link 3. Anyway, Shamin, welcome. I just want to introduce you. Please say hello, quickly introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here and chat with you all and learn from you all. My name is Shamin Ajan. I'm the CEO and clinical director of Shamin Ajan Psychotherapy. We provide mental health and well-being services to individuals, groups, couples, and organizations to help them to shine and live their best lives, both professionally and personally.
So right after the election and the shock value of that, I know so many people that you and I both know were depressed and anxious. So your phone must have been ringing off the wall.
It was a parallel experience. I had to access emotion that I was numb to so that I could be there for my clients. And then the next day I woke up just very focused on especially my survivors of childhood sexual abuse who have to watch somebody who has been charged with many, many sexual assault crimes, be elected into office, and it's been a lot of work, but it's been very rewarding. And we are all still dealing with the challenge, but I see a lot of people stepping into action and really stepping into their power and feeling more empowered.
Thank you so much for joining with Heather, and thank you for your time. When we come back, we're going to talk with Chris Exline, who's in Ukraine, and he's going to give us some information. Now, he and I have not rehearsed this. I have to tell you, we did have a talk show recording recently on exactly what he's going to talk about, and that is dealing with understanding the immensity of the problem, the mental health problem in Ukraine right now, as a result of the death and destruction, as a result of many orphans in the streets. And the government is not able to take care of these people, but organizations and private, he'll get into this much better than me, private foster families and the work that Chris Exline has taken upon himself to help solve a problem. Chris, I'm just setting the stage. Let's all get off this show and come back in a few minutes on Zoom link number 2. Thank you all.